Shabbat Shalom. Our scripture reading for today is Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verses 4 through 6. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that you stir not up, nor awake my love, until he please. Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm, for love is strong as death.
Shabbat Shalom, family. Our selection today, Lean on You.
The Oracles of the UCI, 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, and all uncleanness, or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as become saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore, let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and have sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in this body of Yahshua. Oftentimes, me and some of the other priests will, have conversations about the kids and the direction of how life ends up going, where you try to achieve as much as you possibly can to keep your kids out of the street, and then as soon as they get an opportunity, they go right to those areas that you were trying to keep them out of. And then you look at the music. You can have raise these kids in an environment where they don't have to deal with any of those things, and as soon as they turn the radio on, they want to hear drill music. They want to hear, as gangster of rap as they possibly can get. And sitting down thinking about that, there's a little bit more to that than what I always thought it was. When we start looking at what the house of Dawid is and what it was set to do, there's going to be certain things that the descendants of those people are going to be attracted to. When you talk about kings, their job was to protect Israel. They had, it was their job to go to war if anything went sideways. And you look, and there's a whole generation that's warring with each other because they don't really have any kind of foundation. So you then ask yourself, what happens with a descendants of kings who don't have any structure? Then they are looking for something else to fulfill those kingly duties. And that just ends up being, put out in a street form. So today we're going to go through the glory of the house of David. And that glory sometimes don't always show up as glory. That glory doesn't always show up as something good, because there are trials and tribulations that you have to go through. There's a point where you might say, you know what, I don't want no more of this glory, because this glory here seemed to be causing me nothing but trouble. But let's begin this today in Zechariah chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 14. And I want to go ahead and apologize to you now, because we're going to get through this. So if you got your jailhouse crock pot on, put it on slow simmer. All right? Put it on slow simmer. All right? All right? All right. Zechariah chapter 12, and let's start at verse 1.
The burden of the word of Yahweh for Israel, says Yahweh, which stretched forth the heavens and lays the foundation of the earth, and forms the spirit of man within him. Behold, I make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Yehudah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. In that day, says Yahweh, I'll smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness. And I'll open mine eyes upon the house of Yehudah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors of Yehudah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in Yahweh of hosts, their Elohim. In that day will I make the governors of Yehudah like an hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. Yahweh also shall save the tents of Yehudah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Yehudah.
So you have such a glory. It says, Yahweh shall save the tents of Judah first. So he's got to save the rest of Judah. So what does that look like then for the descendants of David? It looks like they're getting left behind, because other people are going to get dealt with first. Yahweh shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David. Now, the house of David is inside of Judah. Okay? But he got to save the other people. Imagine now if all the individuals who you were amongst, who look just like you, they all get their redemption and you still standing there. This don't feel like glory right now. But Yahweh said the glory is so strong on the house of David. If he happens to give them their glory first, nobody else get there. You don't even see their light. Nobody else light get seen. We don't consider that. We don't, all we want what we want, and we want it now. But he is saying that there has to be some order in how this is done, because just the glory of the house of David will cause some issues with the tribe. And Yahweh is all about creating a balance in his house. So he does things in a way that suits him. And we may have all of these issues with it. You know, imagine the anguish that is upon the descendants of the kings when they are not being delivered. And they got to watch all of these people around them who are their people, not somebody who is of another nation. I'm talking about their people. But they got to still wait. But sometimes when you got that kind of glory on you, Yahweh makes you wait to get certain things. Go ahead.
In that day shall Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as Dawid, and the house of Dawid shall be as Elohim, as the angels of Yahweh before them.
Now, whoa. And the house of Dawid shall be as Elohim?
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine if you give them what they deserve first. And a lot of times we mad because we done had to wait for something. We mad because we wanted ours at 2 o'clock on Tuesday 22 years ago. But there's certain things you might be upset at how that has transpired. Yahweh made that go that way. You're not going to get it now. You're going to get it later. And it don't have anything to do with something that you've done wrong. And it doesn't have anything to do with what somebody else has done to you. This is about his will. I'm sorry, but if you just got it going on, you're going to have to wait. And the house of Dawid got it going on. Go ahead.
It shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. And I'll pour upon the house of Dawid and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadad Rimmon in the valley of Megiddon. And the land shall mourn, every family apart, the family of the house of Dawid apart, and their wives apart, the family of the house of Nathan apart, and their wives apart.
We never consider what's going to happen when certain prophecies of Yahweh go into gear. We always see ourselves in the event fully the way we are intact in our house. Like the wife says, you know what, I don't really have to do or learn any of this stuff because I'm going to have my husband. The husband saying, you know, I ain't really got to learn how to cook because my wife is chef. But when he said, your house apart, now both of y'all got a problem because one of them didn't learn and the other one can't burn. Now we got a problem. Now we got a problem. Now both of y'all missing each other because you never looked at, I need to figure out some of what is happening over there. And we all guilty to some degree, some more than others. But do we consider how are we going to deal with that when there is a separation? Now, when that separation happens and all of those duties are placed on us, now how are we going to deal? Go ahead.
The family of the house of Levi apart, and their wives apart. The family of Shimei apart, and their wives apart. All the families that remain, every family apart, and their wives apart.
Let's go to, and then we're going to begin dealing with some of this glory. Let's start at 1 Samuel chapter 8. Now, it's because of this glory that Yahweh has to change the order. He didn't say that Judah had done anything wrong. He didn't say that Dawid had done anything wrong. This has absolutely nothing to do with that. This has something to do with glory.
First Samuel chapter 8 and verse 1. And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes and perverted judgment. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, you are old, and your sons walk not in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
Now, there's a part of this that you may miss. Verse 4, then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together. They had been having meetings. Because now they have an all-together coalition to completely change the way. And now it's being presented. So they had their little mini meetings to see who all they could get on their side before they presented this. Go ahead.
But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto Yahweh.
Now, and it says the thing displeased Samuel when they said. So we're not talking about a few brothers coming to him. We're talking about they have organized themselves and then came at him. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them.
Right. Sometimes we may perceive that we're warring against one entity and you're really warring against another because you don't know who's orchestrating the event. So here, Samuel thinks, hey, they have a problem with me. Yahweh, this ain't about you. No, they got a problem with me. They don't like my order. Go ahead.
According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt.
Now, wait a minute. Yahweh just went to the past. Wait a minute. They said this thing. Yahweh done went all the way back to Egypt. No, man. This. When I go back to see how each and every situation is done, they have always had a problem with me. He has gone right back to Egypt that quick. Because when you look at the past, it shows a pattern. And he's establishing that this is just not an isolated situation. This is how they operate with me. Go ahead.
But yet people don't like you to bring up the past. Why do you keep bringing that up? Yahweh does it too.
I'm like my daddy. Stunting like my daddy. Hey, that was a pretty big jump. We're talking about Samuel. We're talking about kingship being set up. We're talking about generations past Egypt. And he goes right to it as soon as there's an issue. Go ahead.
According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto you. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of king that shall reign over them. And Samuel told all the words of Yahweh unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots.
Now, I need you all to understand that what's being said about what's going to happen is not somebody's opinion. This is not where somebody is trying to tell you, man, I wouldn't buy the Corolla. See, I'm trying to tell you, see, the transmission going to go out. No. This is not somebody's opinion. No, this is Yahweh sent. I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen. This is not an opinion. This is not what I think, feel, and believe. I'm telling you of a surety. So understand that when you're reading that. You're not reading somebody's opinion about what may happen. Go ahead.
And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50s, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards, and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants, and your goodliest young men and your asses, and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your sheep, and you shall be his servants.
All right, now that means we just transferred from being servants of Yahweh to now servants of the King of Yahweh. Go ahead.
And you shall cry out in that day because of your king which you shall have chosen you, and Yahweh will not hear you in that day.
He will not hear you because you would not hear him. Now, folks will say, well, now he's doing tit for tat. Tell it on Yahweh. How you going to tell him on him? Go ahead.
Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king over us.
Okay, so you understand he already said, I'm not going to hear you when you say something now because you didn't hear me. Go ahead.
That we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Samuel, hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go you every man unto his city.
All right, so at that point we have Saul, who is anointed as king, and he does a horrible job. He does not follow the word of Yahweh, and then argues that he did follow it. He's told to go in, kill everything that breathed, and he swear down that he has followed the instruction. And Samuel said, well, how his sheep then? And how he completely renegotiates his deceit. He completely flips that and said, it was the people. The people wanted to save the best to sacrifice to you. Now, this is the king. First, he stands in authority. Soon as he is found not following the instructions, he then switches to being a servant of the people. Now, the people wanted it. So now he gets removed, and Yahweh is going in his direction. Because understand, that first king was their king. Now Yahweh is about to choose his king. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 16. So that was Israel's king.
First Samuel chapter 16 and verse 1. And Yahweh said unto Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul?
Right. How long you? I know you anointed him. Sometimes we're mourning for something that we know is not right. Samuel know he ain't right. But is it a little vanity because it was him that did it? Because it was him that anointed him? What things are we connecting ourselves to? He's mourning for a king who will not follow instructions. But when we get accustomed to any type of situation, even if it's a bad situation, once we get accustomed to it, we want to still stay in that situation. We don't want the situation to change, even though it's bad. Now Yahweh has to tell him to stop mourning for him. The page has already been turned. Go ahead.
Seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel, fill your horn with oil, and go. I will send you to Yesse the Bethlehemite, for I provided me a king among his sons.
I have provided me a king. That other king was a king they asked for. Now this is the one I'm choosing. Go ahead.
And Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me.
Pause. So what is he really mourning for? So you're mourning because I have rejected Saul, But at the same time, you know if he find out you going to anoint a king, he going to kill you. So, you scared of the bully, but you love the bully? Go ahead.
And Yahweh said, take an heifer with you, and say, I'm come to sacrifice to Yahweh. And call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I'll show you what you shall do. And you shall anoint unto me him whom I name unto you.
So there's certain situations that you're going to have to be careful how you word even what it is you're doing. He said, man, how can I go? Y'all, let's say this. Then you don't need to say nothing else. So I probably, man, we keep talking. Yeah, well, no, see what happened was, so I was going to go down and see, okay, let me talk. Let me say something. Let me say, man, shut up. You gonna get your own head cut off. You know the man a killer. Go ahead.
And Samuel did that which Yahweh spake, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, cometh you peaceably? And he said, peaceably. I'm come to sacrifice unto Yahweh. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and called them to the sacrifice.
So Yahweh orchestrates this whole thing so he can get Samuel out of there peacefully. Now, you know how Saul is. They done deceived me. Yahweh done deceive you. He orchestrates a whole sacrifice just so he can get to that man's house. That's the only house he's going to. He don't care nothing about nothing else. All y'all gather around. Let's have a party. All right, now, y'all come over here to the side. All he came for was that family right there. Go ahead. But sometimes Yahweh have to orchestrate something in a way that you don't get attacked before you move. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab, and said, surely Yahweh's anointed is before him. But Yahweh said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For Yahweh sees not as man sees. For man looks on the outward appearance, but Yahweh looks on the heart.
Right. So when you're looking at a man, or you looking at the descendants of a man, you looking at any, whether it be a woman, what do you see? And ask yourself, does Yahweh see the same thing you see? How are you looking? And after you figured out that, find out why you looking that way. Go ahead.
Then Jesse called Abinadab, and made him pass before Samuel. And he said, neither has Yahweh chosen this. Then Jesse made Shemaiah to pass by.
Now, for Samuel to automatically see the first one, you have to know that there's a presentation of what a king is supposed to look like among the nations. So automatically, if you have this warrior type looking individual, probably tall, same thing they said about Saul, that he stood above all his people. Oh, he looked like a warrior. They were pleased. So what did he do? He gave them a king after their heart. But the king that he has after his heart don't look like their king. So what Samuel is doing is trying to find something that looks just like what the first king was. Because that one looks like the other kings. So Yahweh's got to correct him. You ain't looking right. Go ahead.
And he said, neither has Yahweh chosen this. Again, Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, Yahweh has not chosen these. And Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all your children? And he said, there remains yet the youngest. And behold, he keeps the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he comes hither. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance, and goodly to look to. And Yahweh said, Arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of Yahweh came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah.
All right. So as he is anointed with this oil, the oil is already a representation of the Spirit. As he is anointed with oil, the Spirit of Yahweh, this kingly rulership spirit is among him. Go ahead.
But the Spirit of Yahweh departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from Yahweh troubled him.
All right. When the spirit is removed, then the evil spirits see an empty house. And they now move in unto Saul. See, once the job is not his anymore, he has no connection with the Spirit. He has no right to it. So a lot of times we think that the Spirit is just going to deal with us and we get to take it home. We're going to take the Spirit bowling. You know what I'm saying? We're going to hang out. We're going to a fight party and the Spirit going to go. Matter of fact, give me 2 tickets, one for myself and the Spirit coming with me. No. The Spirit not going to the fight party with you. See, the Spirit goes according to the job. You ain't got no job. You ain't got no Spirit. He don't need to deal with you. Once he no longer has the job, he no longer needs that Spirit. That Spirit is for the one whose job it is. So you're seeing order right here. I don't know if that's what you know you're reading, but that's order. He's anointed for a job. The Spirit is given to him because he now has a job. And you can read all the other stuff. He was goodly to look to. Yahweh didn't give him the Spirit because he was good looking. That ain't why I got it. Go ahead.
And Saul's servants said unto him, Behold now, an evil spirit from Elohim troubles you. Let our master now command your servants, which are before you, to seek out a man who is a cunning player on an harp.
Now, if you guys have a Septuagint or what they call a Brenton Bible, it would be good to go back because some of these things in this, as we go through, are a tad bit out of order and it's flipped. When you go to the Septuagint, which was directly translated by Hebrews directly into Greek, you're going to find that some of the out of place things, they're not out of place in the Septuagint. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from Elohim is upon you, that he shall play with his hand, and you shall be well. And Saul said unto his servants, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of his servants and said, Behold, I've seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man.
Right. So in just doing this jumps out of order right here as it goes all the way to this part. And then it's going to come back when you come to read, and it's going to throw you off like he was anointed, and then this happened. There's a pause in between this. But go ahead.
And a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and Yahweh is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse, and said, Send me David your son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent him by David his son unto Saul.
All right. So let's keep your place right there, because I want to go now to Genesis, because we have to kind of set up what was done right there. Genesis chapter 49. And we're going to start that at verse 1.
And Jacob called unto his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together.
Now, a lot of times when, especially when there's something of a heavy nature. We like to keep certain aspects of personal conversations secret. Yahweh says, gather all of y'all around. And he's about to put these blessings on. Now everybody gonna hear this. Go ahead.
Gather yourselves together, and hear, you sons of Jacob, and hearken on to Israel your father.
Uh-huh.
Reuben, you're my firstborn.
Starting with the firstborn. Go ahead.
My might and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power.
Right off the rip. All right, go ahead.
Unstable as water.
Right off the rip.
You shall not excel.
Uh-huh.
Because you went up to your father's bed, then defiled you it. He went up to my couch.
Wait a minute. Now he said this. Now, some of them boys, that they mama. He talking about. And he having this conversation in front of all of them. He says excellency and dignity and power, but you're unstable as water. You went up to my concubine. Right in front of everybody. Go ahead. Keep going.
Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations.
Uh-huh.
O my soul, come not you into their secret, onto their assembly, mine honor. Be not you united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel.
Mm-hmm.
I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel.
Right, so these two can't be together. Go ahead.
Yehuda, you are he whom your brethren shall praise.
Uh-huh.
Your hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you.
Wait a minute. If your father's children shall bow down to you, he had already decided that Judah was going to be king. But what did Yahweh, when they asked for a king, what did he anoint? A Benjamite.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't possibly have been a good king. He didn't come from a kingly tribe. The kingly tribe was decided in Genesis. So Yahweh knew exactly what he was doing. Oh, that's your king. I'm telling you what kind of man you're going to get. Yahweh is already, the kingship is decided in Genesis. It didn't get decided. And see, that's our issue. When something comes to pass, we think, how did this develop or this just came about? No. Where the king was going to come from is in Genesis. It does not just appear when Yahweh anoints Dawid. He didn't just find this one individual. Go ahead.
Yehuda is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you're gone up.
What is the lion? What did I tell you? Lion's what?
King of the jungle.
King of the jungle. Go ahead.
He stooped down. He couched as a lion, as in an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda.
The scepter is your staff of rulership. He did not call the king his first king from this tribe. He could not have possibly been successful. Go ahead.
When you look at it, what he's breaking down is characteristics.
Yes.
So you don't have that characteristic.
You don't have it. And wait till we get to his characteristics. See? And understand, we all know people who got these certain characteristics. When he read Reuben, he said excellency of dignity and excellency of power, unstable as water. You went up to your father's couch. Come on. We all knew, and some still know, some brothers who will talk about going and being with somebody's wife and think it's cool. And you need to be looking at it. Reuben, get the hell away from me. It's in them. Go ahead.
Elders, we back up as you're putting stuff together. I'm thinking about the whole thing with going to Egypt when they didn't know it was Yosef that was in charge.
Uh-huh.
And he wouldn't send Benjamin.
Right.
It was Judah who put his self on the line.
Yep. Show us.
Verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come.
Wait a minute. Now we talking about until Shiloh come. Now we automatically dealing with a connection with the Messiah through this kingly house of Judah. Go ahead.
And unto him shall the gathering of the people be, binding his foal onto the vine, and his ass colt onto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk.
So you have Yahshua all in this. You have the kingship of David all in this, and none of them have been brought to physical fruition as of yet. But so this is prophecy that we're reading in Genesis chapter 49. And you have to also look at who are the sons that he had the most to say about. Look at all of this that has been said about Judah. Keep reading.
Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon.
Next.
Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens, and he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I've waited for your salvation, O Yahweh. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He gives goodly words.
Now, we had all of these things that were said concerning Yehuda. All right, now let's read by yourself.
Yosef is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty El of Yaakov. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by Elohim your father, who shall help you, and by the Almighty, who shall bless you with the blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of your father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bond of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Yosef, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren.
On the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brothers. Now, you look at who he has the most to say about, and it's Judah and Yosef. So when they asked for a king, it needed to come from one of them. Yosef saved them. Go ahead.
Benjamin shall raven as a wolf.
Wait a minute. So Yahweh had them anoint a wolf. When they asked for a king, out of order, Yahweh said, "You want a king? You want? I'm tell you what kind of king you gonna get." Now how he know? Cause he was gonna have a wolf anointed. Now pour the oil on the wolf. Now let him go. Now hurry up. Now run. He had him anoint a wolf. And a wolf is totally different from a lion. Go ahead.
In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil.
Didn't he say he was going to devour your stuff? He was going to take out. He did wolf-like stuff. Go ahead.
That was verse 20.
That was it. All right. Let's, in dealing with that, we need to look at just the order of how Yahweh dealt with things. So in dealing with Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, Yahweh has them to anoint as a king the youngest one of the tribes. But then when it comes down to deal with David, he takes the youngest of the sons and raises up a honorable king through what was the youngest of them. So Yahweh is not limited to all the things of culture. He's not limited to any of those things. One of the other things I want to read in Proverbs 29 and verse 2, it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bears rule, the people mourn. And it was a totally different rulership between the rulership of Saul and then the rulership of David. Now let's go back to 1 Samuel. We're going to go to 1 Samuel 17.
You know, Elder, as we go there and you study, and he's breaking down characteristics, and you talk about Benjamin being a wolf. A wolf runs in packs. And then you think back to that whole situation when those men did that concubine that way.
Yep.
And they were a Benjamin.
Yep.
Didn't they run and protect the pack?
Right. They didn't care nothing about what was right. They didn't care nothing about what was just. It was protect the pack. And sometimes you can be on that protect the pack stuff and you're going to be the one who's going to be packing up. Because at what point does what's really righteous come into play? That's why Judah needed to be the lawgiver. The wolf pack leader can't be the lawgiver because they're too busy being about the pack. And they didn't want to hear nothing. So much, in fact, it was about their pack. They was able to war against all Israel. Mm-hmm. It took all Israel to subdue Benjamin. Go ahead.
1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 1. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together in Sokoth, which belongs to Yehudah, and pitched between Sokoth and Azekah in Ephes Damim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together, and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. But the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. And he had an helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are you come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and you servants of Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me, and to kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall you be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Yehudah, whose name was Jesse. And he had 8 sons, and the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul.
All right, jump to verse 32.
And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine.
Now, Saul was scared of the Philistine because he need his pack. A lion will walk up on a slew of other animals and fight to the death. Go ahead.
And Saul said to David, You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, For you are but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, Your servant kept his father's sheep. And there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth.
Now, this shows the love that he has for the sheep. That he would not just say, this animal has grabbed and took the sheep. He goes to war to protect the sheep. Different kind of individual. Go ahead.
And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Your servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living Elohim. David said moreover, Yahweh that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and Yahweh be with you.
So, at this point, you have this man prophesying the outcome of a battle that he has not entered in. A battle that he should not win. An altercation that other men around him who are warriors ain't trying to deal with. Jump to verse 43.
And as we go there, as a young man, he even knew where his deliverance came from. And the Philistines said unto David, Am I a dog that you come out to me with staves?
Staves, rocks. You gonna come out here with some rocks? You gonna throw rocks like I'm a dog? I'm a soldier. Go ahead.
And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I'll give your flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to you in the name of Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied.
Saul couldn't say that. Go ahead.
This day will Yahweh deliver you into mine hand, and I'll smite you.
Wait a minute. He didn't just prophesy on that side. He prophesied to his adversary too. Go ahead.
And take your head from you, and will give the carcass of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a Elohim in Israel.
Wait a minute. He said, and I'm going to take your head from you. This like one of them Bruce Lee conversations. I am going to take my left foot, and I am going to put it beside your right ear. No, you ain't going to pow. You didn't even see the foot move. It's one thing when somebody tell you what they're going to do and still do it, and you still can't stop. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Go ahead.
And all this assembly shall know that Yahweh saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is Yahweh's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag.
He ran toward him, not from him. Go ahead.
And took thence a stone and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine and took his sword.
Now, you have to then deal with this. He told the man, I'm going to take your head off. But he declined to take a sword. He was offered a sword. He was offered Saul's sword. He said, I can't go with these because I have not proven them. I can only go with weapons that I have proven. If Yahweh says that, Judah, you are my battle axe and my weapon of war, I will tear things into pieces with you. But he won't go to war with something that he has not proven. David says, these are good. Oh, you got a coat of mail. You got all of this. Oh, this is really good stuff. But I can't war with that. I got to war with what I know. But he says he's going to take his head. But he does not take an item with him that will allow him to cut off an head. Go ahead.
And drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled.
All right. So we have to then look at, what does this look like in a generation of people who have been cut off from all angles of their culture, but they have these characteristics? What does that look like? Let's go to chapter 18. 1 Samuel chapter 18, and I want you to read verses 6 through 13.
And it came to pass, as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, that the women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing, to meet King Saul with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music.
All right, so who did they come to meet?
Saul.
All right, they came to come and meet the king. He's back from a slaughter, and they coming to meet him. Okay, go ahead.
And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000.
Wait a minute, Saul, wait a minute. Who you here to sing for? Wait a minute. You're supposed to be singing for me. Now, but they didn't come now to sing for David. But it looked like the better note. Go ahead.
And Saul was very angry, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom?
Now, look at the power of them women. They ain't been in damn fight. They ain't had damn weapon. They done sung a song and done moved 2 kings. Where they weapons at? Look at the war that's about to get started. Go ahead.
And Saul eyed David from that day and forward.
Oh, now we got some issues. So you have this that's in them. Now go back. This Genesis 49, these characteristics, Yahweh is pulling from the gene pool of these descendants. See, remember I said before, your mom and your daddy might not have stayed together, but they stayed together long enough to do what they needed to do, and that would make you. See, the characteristics is what he's looking for. That follows that gene pool. This is why everybody want to get in our gene pool. They act like they don't understand lineage, but they very much so do. That's why they're trying to make their way into yours. Go ahead.
And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from Elohim came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I'll smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David, because Yahweh was with him, and was departed from Saul.
So Saul was afraid because he knew the spirit was there. And just understanding how the women viewed him has caused a rift between these 2 individuals. Go ahead.
Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people.
Now, so he then is getting demoted, if you will. He removed him from him. Because at this point, he's just getting too much honor. But these characteristics didn't just start with David. These are characteristics from Judah that was given by Jacob, and then he's born into that. So David then was a warrior, a musician, a poet, a prophet who prophesied through his songs and poems. It is also written that he was goodly to look upon. These characteristics would follow through to his lineage in various forms, as all kings who operate correctly were labeled a son of David. Even the anointed one himself, our Adonai, was called the son of David. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 7. Second Samuel chapter 7, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And there's so many things, intricate parts, of this story. We got to take the highlights so that we understand what exactly that is Yahweh is going to be raising back up. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when the king sat in his house, and Yahweh had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, See now, I dwell in an house of cedar, but the ark of Elohim dwells within curtains. And Nathan said to the king, Go, do all that is in your heart, for Yahweh is with you.
Now, he is so accustomed to working for Yahweh and doing his job. As soon as he's at peace, he then automatically considers Yahweh. How is it I have a house, but the holy vessel of Yahweh is between curtains? How many of us operate or think like that? How many of us would say, okay, if I have all of this, surely my Elohim should be represented better than what he is? He didn't get ordered to do this. This is automatically in his heart. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that night that the word of Yahweh came unto Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant David, Thus says Yahweh, Shall you build me an house for me to dwell in? Whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, even to this day. But I have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. And all the places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel, spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, Why build you not me an house of cedar?
Right. If he would have asked, it wouldn't have been as glorious as it was. It was a glorious thing because David automatically wanted it for Yahweh, without Yahweh even speaking anything about it. Go ahead.
Now therefore, so shall you say unto my servant David, Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I took you from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Israel. And I was with you whithersoever you went, and have cut off all your enemies out of your sight, and have made you a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Moreover, I'll appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused you to rest from all your enemies, also Yahweh tells you that he will make you an house. And when your days be fulfilled, and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, which shall proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom.
So what Yahweh is giving his glory and honor and blessing to was not by what David did, but what he intended to do. All Yahweh needed to see was the intent. We don't think about how powerful intent is. He just intended. He didn't actually do it. But that was enough for Yahweh. Go ahead.
You know, Elder, as you say that, it brings to mind, maybe this is where some people get stuck at, thinking that whole, Yahweh know the intents of my heart. But David has put in work.
Right. And we just talk like we're going to do something. We doing talk. No. If he wasn't stopped, that house was going to be building. You understand? Mm-hmm. When he said, I'm going to build my Elohim a house, he already saw wood coming in. You can hear this. Boop, 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 boop. He was already getting the stuff delivered. If he didn't get stopped, done deal. See, sometimes folk talking about what they're gonna talk about, but they ain't did nothing. So how strong was that intent? Go ahead.
He shall build an house for my name, and I'll establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I'll be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit lawlessness, I'll chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be established forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David.
Now, you understand why when Yahweh says, I'm going to provoke you to jealousy with a foolish nation, you understand why the nations are not trying to look for any lost tribes, and they're not trying to be any other tribe. Matter of fact, they don't even, it's supposed to be a holy nation, but they themselves don't even tell you that they priests. They want rulership. So they only claim Judah, because that's where the king's at. And because they are in collusion with a lie, the Catholics say they the priests. So you got one that claim they the king, and then their cousin claim they the priest. They're not worried about anything else. Just so you understand why, you only hear of certain tribes, why you don't hear anything about any of these other tribes. People want power, rulership, that authority. So they're only going to take those. Let's go where we at, brother. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 9. But once you understand why they're doing it, then it starts to make more sense. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 9, and we're going to read verses 1 through 7.
Nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at the first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterward did more grievously affect her by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, in Galilee of the nations. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them has the light shined. You have multiplied the nation, and not increased the joy. They joy before you according to the joy in harvest, and as men rejoice when they divide the spoil. For you have broken the yoke of his burden, and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, the garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with the burning and fuel of fire. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty El, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this.
Verse 7, of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom to order it. So even as we're talking about righteous redemption, who redeems the children of Israel? The king goes and fights the battle and brings, saves the captives. So the Messiah had to come through this line. So there is order there. Let's jump to Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah 11, and let's start that at verse 1.
And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of Yahweh shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yah.
Right. So David was anointed. The oil is a representation of the Spirit. His descendant, Yahweh used the seed of David to bring forth a body of Yahshua, and now he got 7 spirits. Go ahead.
And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of Yahweh. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears.
Because what look like what it is and what sound like what it is ain't what it is. Go ahead.
But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth.
Now, if he's going to judge, first of all, then that means that there's law. You can't judge without law. And if he's judging with righteousness, then that means he is considering the very things that his father does. He then pulls up all of those past dealings. The only way you can get away from the past dealings is if you completely turn from it. But if your next action look like your last action, then you ain't turned from it. Go ahead.
And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together. And the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the sucking child will play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahweh, as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Adonai shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the 4 corners of the earth.
Right. And you understand why he had to make sure that Judah is spread, because if he put too many of Judah in one place, they're going to take over that place. They have the spirit of the kings in them. You can't put too many of them together. Go ahead.
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Yehudah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehudah, and Yehudah shall not vex Ephraim. But they shall fly upon the spoil of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And Yahweh shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shod. And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt.
All right. Now let's go to John chapter 2. Let's deal with what was given when David wants to set up the house, and it was told your son is going to set up this house. Now, of course, we know that Solomon built the physical house, but Yahweh was dealing with a whole nother house. John chapter 2, and we're going to read verses 13 through 22.
And the Yehudi's Passover was at hand, and Yahshua went up to Jerusalem, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables.
So at this point, he doesn't look like God is love. See, people will take one statement and bring that statement at the point of your life where it don't look like you shining the most. See, to other people, this is not a pleasing act. But it depends on who you're trying to please. Go ahead.
And said unto them that sold doves, Take these things hence, and make not my Father's house an house of merchandise. And his disciples remembered that it was written, The zeal of your house has eaten me up.
Now, what does that look like in 2024? These people who have these characteristics, does it look like, especially if you know, you got half the house in the word, half the house outside the word, do other people say, I mean, your zeal for dealing with them people, and there ain't that much word in the world. How long you been over there? How much money you putting over there? How much time you putting in that? They remembered that it was written, the zeal of your house has eaten me up. What does that look like down the line? We know what it looked like at this time. But what does it look like later on? Because the descendants of these individuals still carry these characteristics. They just don't know what to do with them. Go ahead.
Then answered the Yehudims and said unto him, What sign showeth you unto us, seeing that you doeth these things? Yahshua answered and said unto them, Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up. Then said the Yehudis, 46 years was this temple in building, and will you rear it up in 3 days? But he spake of the temple of his body. When therefore he was risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this unto them, and they believed the scripture and the word which Yahshua had said. Now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover, in the feast day, many believed in his name when they saw the miracles which he did. But Yahshua did not commit himself unto them, because he knew all men, and needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man.
All right. I'll destroy this temple and I will rebuild in 3 days. This is the ultimate temple that Yahweh was talking about through Dawid. Now let's go back to 1 Samuel chapter 25. First Samuel chapter 25. See, this glory of the house of Dawid has to appear somewhat strange when there is no kingdom to run. 1 Samuel chapter 25, and let's start that at verse 30.
And it shall come to pass, when Yahweh shall have done to my Adonai according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and shall have appointed you ruler over Israel.
Now we're dealing with what is happening with Abigail, with Nabal, and she is talking him out of killing all of these people, of destroying this house. All right, go ahead.
That there shall be no grief unto you, nor offense of heart unto my master, either that you have shed blood causelessly, or that my master has avenged himself. But when Yahweh shall have dealt well with my master...
When, not if. Go ahead.
Then remember your handmaid.
Then remember your handmaid. You have to wonder, what is she actually asking right there? Go ahead.
And Dawid said to Abigail, Blessed be Yahweh Elohim of Israel, which sent you this day to meet me. And blessed be your advice, and blessed be you, which have kept me this day from coming to shed blood and from avenging myself with mine own hand.
Now, it is power in being able to advise a king. Go ahead.
For in very deed, as Yahweh Elohim of Israel lives, which has kept me back from hurting you, except you had hasted and come to meet me, surely there had not been left unto Nabal by the morning light any that piss against the wall.
But what if she was waiting for him to get there and then was going to talk to him? Everybody dead. There are certain situations where you need to wait. There's other situations where you need to move right away. There's a warrior on the way here. Go ahead.
So David received her hand that which she had brought him, and said unto her, Go up in peace to your house. See, I have hearkened to your voice, and have accepted your person.
I have listened to you. You have instructed me. Your instruction was righteous. You kept me from doing something. Go ahead.
And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunken. Wherefore she told him nothing, less or more, until the morning light. But it came to pass in the morning, when the wine was gone out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. And it came to pass about 10 days after, that Yahweh smote Nabal, that he died. And when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be Yahweh, that has pleaded the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and has kept his servant from evil. For Yahweh has returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head. And David sent and communed with Abigail to take her to him to wife. And when the servants of David were come to Abigail to Carmel, they spake unto her, saying, David sent us unto you to take you to him to wife. And she arose and bowed herself on her face to the earth, and said, Behold, let your handmaid be a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my master. And Abigail hasted, and arose, and rode upon an ass, with 5 damsels of hers that went after her. And she went after the messengers of David, and became his wife. David also took Ahinomah of Jezreel, and they were also both of them his wives. But Saul had given Michal his daughter, David's wife, to Phalti, the son of Laish, which was of Galem.
Right. So then you have some turmoil that is already going on within his life. Let's go to 1 Chronicles chapter 3. Now, Michal was supposed to be the first wife that he had, and the indignation that was there never disappeared. But this was Saul's daughter. First Chronicles chapter 3, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9.
Now these were the sons of David, which were born unto him in Hebron. The firstborn, Amnon, of Ahinomah the Jezreelitess. The second, Daniel, of Abigail the Carmelitess.
Now, when you read that in 2 Samuel chapter 3, it gives his name as Chileab. So we don't know if there was 2 names there or why they got those names different. Go ahead.
The third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth, Adoniah, the son of Haggith. The fifth, Shephatiah of Abital. The sixth, Ithraim, by Eglah his wife. These 6 were born unto him in Hebron, and there he reigned 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. And these were born unto him in Jerusalem, Shemaiah, and Shobab, and Nathan, and Shlomo, 4 of Beth-shua, the daughter of Amiel, Ibahar also, and Eliasham, and Eliphelet, and Noga, and Nepheg, and Yephia, and Elishama, and Eliada, and Eliphalet, 9. These were all the sons of Dawid, besides the sons of the concubines and Tamar, their sister.
These were all the sons of Dawid beside. So there are other sons as well. All right. Now let's go to Matthew chapter 25. So what does that look like in 2024? So, man, this dude got kids everywhere. Look at that. Wait a minute. What does the descendant of a king who does not have the order of kingly rule but still have kingship in him, what does it look like? Right. Matthew chapter 25, and let's read verses 1 through 13.
Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom comes. Go you out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. But go you rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves.
So there's a way that all the virgins look alike. And the only way to tell the difference is to allow some situation or circumstance to enter in that causes what may appear to be darkness. And then you find out who has spirit in their lamp. Then you find out who has oil. In the daytime, all the virgins look the same. They look like they are fit for the wedding. But what you need is some darkness. The darkness shows you what you are actually dealing with. The very darkness that we're trying to avoid. Go ahead.
And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Adonai, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man comes.
All right. Now let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 12. 2 Samuel chapter 12. And we're going to read verses 1 through 14.
2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 1. And Yahweh sent Nathan unto Dawid, and he came unto him, and said unto him.
Now, this is after he has seen this woman, and he was where he should not have been, and now he has gone about and been with this man's wife, and ended up putting this man in this battle. Go ahead.
There were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nursed up. And it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd, to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb, and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, As Yahweh lives, the man that has done this thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing and because he had no pity.
Now, understand that there are two levels of the judgment. He must die, but he also must pay restitution. Not just die, he must pay the restitution. Go ahead.
And Nathan said to David, You are the man. Thus says Yahweh Elohim of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Saul. And I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom, and gave you the house of Israel and all of Yehudah. And if it had been too little, I would moreover have given unto you such and such things.
All you had to do was ask. Go ahead.
Wherefore have you despised the commandment of Yahweh, to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and have taken his wife to be your wife, and have slain him by the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife.
Stop. The sword shall never depart from his house, but he has a lineage. Okay, what does that look like in 2024 if that same sword follows them? Once that sword is on them, you have to ask yourself, how far does that go? Keep reading.
Thus says Yahweh, Behold, I'll raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I'll take your wives before your eyes, and give them unto your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of this sun. For you did it secretly, but I'll do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against Yahweh. And Nathan said unto David, Yahweh also has put away your sin. You shall not die.
The judgment that he put among his own self. Go ahead.
Howbeit, because by this deed you have given great occasion to the enemies of Yahweh to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto you shall surely die.
Right. But then even when we look and examine that situation, we know that the law says that if there is a situation of adultery, the man and the woman is supposed to be dealt with. There was absolutely nothing said concerning Bathsheba. We know that she didn't have any power in her whatsoever to deny him. Why? He had too much glory. His glory was so strong that Yahweh didn't even punish her, didn't even mention anything of punishing her. So now that means there has to be some serious consideration taken about the glory that they have. Let's go to Matthew chapter 26.
You know, I'm laughing about the glory. You think about it. This is the same David they were singing songs about?
Right. And, you know, your enemies can't wait until you're having a bad day. Matthew chapter 26, and we're going to read verse 36 through 46.
Then comes Yahshua with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and says unto his disciples, Sit you here while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Cephas and the sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then says he unto them, My soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry you here, and watch with me. And he went a little further, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will.
Nevertheless, when you are in a situation, there's always what you want. But at what point do we accept what Yahweh's will is? He is praying, all right, profusely. This is what I want. But if that's not your will, I'm going to follow what your will is. Go ahead.
And he comes on to his disciples and find them asleep, and says unto Cephas, What, could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, that you enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And he went away again the second time, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, your will be done. And he came and found them asleep again.
Now he's trying his best. Oh, my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, your will be done. He's getting to the point where he understands, I'll accept your will. But please, is there any other way? Go ahead.
And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away, and he went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then comes he to his disciples and says unto them, Sleep on now and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners.
In other words, he now knows that it's not going the way that he prayed. He prayed for that to be changed. It was not. Then he's got to deal with this. Go ahead.
Rise, let us be going. Behold, he's at hand that does betray me.
Now, Yahshua is praying, is there any other way? Now, the sword is an instrument of power when swung by you, but it is an instrument of judgment if it is swung at you. You can be a sacrifice for a sin and a king that receives the blame for your nation and not suffer adversity. Let's go to Matthew chapter 2. Matthew chapter 2, and we're going to start this at verse 1.
Now when Yahshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east of Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born king of the Yehudis? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where the anointed one should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, art not the least among the princes of Judea, for out of you shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel.
Now, where is this coming from? We can go right back to Genesis and read this. This just didn't appear here in the New Testament. This is Genesis 49 right here. Go ahead.
Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the young child. And when you have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also.
Right. So now you have this glory, because understand, this is the son of David. We're talking about this king here. And now you have plots to kill the would-be king. So this glory don't feel like glory when the kingdom ain't set up. Because this glory about to get him killed if Yahweh don't protect him. Go ahead.
When they had heard the king, they departed. And, lo, the star, which they saw in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Miriam his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of Elohim in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way.
Being warned of Elohim in a dream. He waits until, this is how Yahweh keeps every entity honest. They are able to stand before Herod, receive the instructions completely with a straight face. They have no understanding that Yahweh is going to make them turn. This is how Yahweh keeps you honest, because you don't know no better. This is why he deals with you on a need-to-know basis. This is why when certain things happen, people say, wait a minute, did you plan this? Now they get to the point that they've done what they're supposed to do. Then here comes the dream. Go the other way. He protected them by not giving them that information ahead of time. Go ahead.
And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Adonai appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be you there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt.
Herod was always going to try to destroy the child. This was not an idea that Herod had later on. If he's trying to rule and then you're going to have somebody who is born king of the Jews, then he wants that dead. This was always his plan. Go ahead.
And was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Adonai by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding angry, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under.
Wait a minute. This glory getting all the other kids killed. This glory is getting 2-year-olds attacked. Go ahead.
According to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men.
All right. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 17. See, glory don't feel all that glorious at times. Everybody say they want it, but sometimes you won't get it back. So they wanted to deal with this king of the Jews. And then you have a merging, if you will, of what was happening with Yahshua. So let's get into something that was instructed for the kings. Deuteronomy chapter 17, and I want you to read verses 14 through 20.
When you are come into the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me. You shall in any wise set him king over you, whom Yahweh your Elohim shall choose. One from among your brethren shall you let set king over you. You may not set a stranger over you, which is not of your brother.
Now, verse 15. You shall in any wise set him king over you, whom Yahweh your Elohim shall choose. Wait a minute. Yahweh didn't choose the first king, they did. Go ahead.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as Yahweh has said unto you, you shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away, neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. And it shall be, when he sits upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priest the Levites.
So then the king has a copy out of the same of what the priests, the Levites, have. Go ahead.
And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear Yahweh his Elohim, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes to do them, that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel.
All right, so then we have to imagine what that is presented like when there is no priestly or kingly setup. The kings have to be taught then out of the same book that the priests are taught out of. So Yahweh may be orchestrating that it may be a class. Half of these people may be priests, the other half may be descendant of the kings. Everybody go to college, but everybody don't take the same path once they get out. I want you to read this definition of copy.
From H4932, Mishnah. From H8138, properly a repetition, that is, a duplicate copy of a document, or a double in amount, by implication a second.
So if something is a copy, then it says what the other one said. Okay? Go to the next reading, because you'll hear in other people's culture that they have a book called a Mishnah. All right? Because that's what the word means. Go ahead, read that.
Mishnah HaTorah Hazaph, a duplicate of this law. Translated by the Septuagint.
So when we then just get down to that, when somebody says they have a Mishnah, the question is it an exact copy of what's in here? If it's not, then it's not a Mishnah. Read, jump to the next graphic and read Deuteronomy 4 and verse 2.
You know, elders, we're going on to that. In the name there, Mishnah HaTorah. Copy of the Torah.
Yeah, right. But if you don't copy it, or if you leave something out, how can it be a copy? Go ahead.
Deuteronomy 4 and verse 2. You shall not add on to the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, which I command you.
So, is it a Mishnah if it doesn't say the same thing that the book that the priests have? So, the king had a Mishnah. But it need to be the same thing that priest reading. There's a reason why he has to read that all the days of his life. This is what keeps him having or operating with righteous judgment. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 24. He doesn't just judge righteously because, he's he's a jolly good fellow. That's not how that works. No, he's constantly in the law book, and it helps him make good decisions. Second Samuel chapter 24, and let's start at verse 1.
And again the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, go number Israel and Yehudah.
Now, it is a very difficult thing to be the king, because every problem that Yahweh has with the house, he's coming to you. It doesn't matter whether you did the problem or not. It doesn't matter. You are in charge of the house. He bringing it to you. Go ahead.
For the king said to Joab, the captain of the host, which was with him, go now through all the tribes of Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, and number you the people, that I may know the number of the people. And Joab said unto the king, Now Yahweh your Elohim add unto the people how many soever they be, and 100-fold, and that the eyes of my master the king may see it. But why does my master the king delight in this thing?
They all know it's wrong. Go ahead.
Notwithstanding, the king's word prevailed against Joab and against the captains of the host. And Joab and the captains of the host went out from the presence of the king to number the people of Israel. And they passed over Jordan and pitched in Arar, on the right side of the city that lies in the midst of the river of Gad, and toward Yazer. Then they came to Gilead, and to the land of Tatim Hadshai. And they came to Danyan, and about to Zidon, and came to the stronghold of Tyre, and to all the cities of the Hivites and of the Canaanites. And they went out to the south of Yehudah, even to Beersheba. So when they had gone through all the land, they came to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days. And Joab gave up the sum of the number of the people unto the king, and there were in Israel 800,000 valiant men that drew the sword, and the men of Yehudah were 500,000 men. And David's heart smote him after that he had numbered the people.
Right. This kind of reminds you of the situation with Judas. How it's a ongoing situation, and until it's done, now his heart smote him. But there was absolutely nothing that could stop him, because at this point he's being pushed. Go ahead.
And David said unto Yahweh, I have sinned greatly in that I have done. And now I beseech you, O Yahweh, take away the lawlessness of your servant, for I have done very foolishly.
Now, 9 months and 20 days or whatever it said, there's absolutely not even a point of praying for the situation, because he's not hearing any of that. He is on a mission. He has been put on a mission. Now, this gives great occasion for a whole lot of things to be said against you right here. Go ahead.
For when David was up in the morning, the word of Yahweh came unto the prophet Gad, David's seer, saying, Go and say unto David, Thus says Yahweh, I offer you 3 things. Choose you one of them, that I may do it unto you. So Gad came to David and told him, and said unto him, Shall 7 years of famine come on to you in your land? Or will you flee 3 months before your enemies, while they pursue you?
All right. So being the king, he has to make a very difficult decision. And no matter what decision he chooses, somebody gets hurt. There's not a decision where everybody go home okay. Or, well, some people go home okay and some people go home better than okay. No, somebody gonna get hurt no matter what decision is made here. So, shall there be 7 years of famine? Or will you flee 3 months before your enemies? Go ahead.
Or that there be 3 days pestilence in your land. Now advise, and see what answer I will return to him that sent me. And David said unto Gad, I'm in a strait. Let us fall now in the hand of Yahweh, for his mercies are great, and let me not fall into the hand of man.
Let me not fall into the hand of man. Let me fall into the hand of Yahweh. Now, 7 years of famine. We have fleeing for 3 months. But now, this other one is going to be the pestilence, but in your land. Okay, keep reading.
So Yahweh sent a pestilence upon Israel from the morning even to the time appointed. And there died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba 70,000 men. And when the angel stretched out his hand upon Jerusalem to destroy it, Yahweh repented him of the evil and said to the angel that destroyed the people, It is enough. Stay now your hand. And the angel of Yahweh was by the threshing place of Arna the Jebusite.
So the angel was right at this place when he was stopped. Go ahead.
And David spake unto Yahweh when he saw the angel that smote the people, and said, Lo, I have sinned, and I have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray you, be against me and against my father's house. And Gad came that day to Dawid and said unto him, Go up, rear an altar unto Yahweh in the threshing floor of Arnah the Jebusite.
Okay, now wait a minute. Yahweh is now getting the king to make an altar in the threshing floor of Arnah the Jebusite. Now, I want you to read the note there. Jump down to in Chronicles 21 and verse 26. Read that.
And Dawid built there an altar to Yahweh, and offered up whole burnt offerings and peace offerings. And he cried to Yahweh, and he answered him by fire out of heaven on the altar of whole burnt offerings, and it consumed the whole burnt offering.
So Yahweh has already, through Dawid, caused a merging of the king and the priest. Now, there's other kings that decided that they were going to try to go and burn incense, and they turned white for the rest of their life. He was instructed as a king to build an altar and make a sacrifice. That's not what kings do. So he is already doing priestly things, even though he's a king. Jump to the next note.
Chronicles chapter 3 and verse 1. 2 Chronicles chapter 3 and verse 1, pardon me. Then Shlomo began to build the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem in Mount Moriah, where Yahweh appeared unto Dawid his father, in the place that Dawid had prepared in the threshing floor of Arnah the Jebusite.
So Yahweh was picking the spot of his temple. And he used all of this turmoil that was happening with Dawid and made him set up the altar at that place. This is the place. So do we concentrate on the turmoil, or do you concentrate on why he brought the turmoil? Go ahead, Bruce.
You know, you got to be right place, right situation, and being commanded by Yahweh. Because we saw Saul try to do a sacrifice.
Sure did.
Yahweh didn't command that. But what he said, I forced myself.
I forced myself. Right. So there's a whole lot going on, but what does that look like? Through what lenses do you view that? Because Abigail was able to see future things in Dawid before it was presented. Michal, on the other hand, saw him and said, how foolish are you? You look like one of the vain men out here. Mm-hmm. She couldn't see through the eyes that she seen him through was totally different. Go ahead.
I think some of the eyes she saw him through was her daddy, because remember the whole coming back. He already had disdain, and what was that? Coming back from war, and he was getting accolades. What did she give him? Coming back from bringing the ark back, and he's rejoicing, getting accolades, and she got a problem with it, just like her father did.
Well, you know, it was one of those situations of when you back and look. He said, I am going to give him a call that she may be a snare unto him.
So he already knew there was some indignation there.
It was put in her to have the indignation against him. And she kept it. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 7.
Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 1. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High Elohim, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him.
So we're talking about a king and a priest. Now, Dawid has already walked in both of those. He's walked in both of those before Yeshua. Go ahead.
To whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. Without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Elohim, abides a priest continually.
Keep going.
Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the tenth of the spoils.
So wait a minute. So Abraham is paying tithes to a priest, but there's no priestly order set up on earth at all. Go ahead.
And verily they that are of the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priesthood, have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law, that is, of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham. But he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham, and blessed him that had the promises. And without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. And here men that die receive tithes, but there he receives them of whom it is witness that he lives. And as I may so say, Levi also, who received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham.
Wait a minute. So it is being connected, and as I may say so, Levi also, who received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham. Keep going.
For he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him.
He was in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. So he paid tithes as well. When it comes down to how Yahweh gonna count something, we really have to look at, is he looking at something the same way we're looking at it? Go ahead.
If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron?
You know, priest, you said something earlier. You know, people say, how you go reading the past? How you go talking about what my daddy did? Check that out. You talking about having the past brought up. How about having your daddy's past brought up, or your daddy's, or your daddy? Say, you did it. What you remember? I didn't do that. Yes, you did. Because you was in the loins of your daddy when he did it. What? And we think the past is a problem. Go ahead.
But it goes right back to what you talk about these little country towns. Who your daddy is? Who
Right.
Because they looking at generations.
You got it.
This is in you.
You got it. That means that characteristic is in you. I ain't saying, no name. But they are adults. And then they have kids, and their kids drive just like they adult parents. I ain't calling no name. I want to give them a helmet and paint numbers on the side of the door. I'm just saying. Them characteristics shine through. Keep reading, please.
For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the law. For he of whom these things are spoken pertains to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. For it is evident that our Adonai sprang out of Yehuda, of which tribe Moshe spake nothing concerning priesthood.
Moshe spake nothing concerning priesthood, concerning Yehuda. So then now an amendment has to be made so that Yahweh's original order goes into effect. Wait a minute, it was always his original order. How do we know that? It was in Genesis 49. We think the amendment was because of something somebody did or something somebody didn't do. No, it was always his plan. Don't be upset because he didn't share a plan with you. You are on a need-to-know basis. And how are you a servant if he got to run his plan by you? Go ahead.
And it is yet far more evident, For that after the similitude of Melchizedek there arise another priest, who is made not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life. For he testifies, you are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. For there is verily a disannulling of the commandment going before for the weakness and unprofitableness thereof. For the law made nothing perfect, but the bringing in of a better hope did, by the which we draw near unto Elohim. And inasmuch as not without an oath he was made priest. For those priests were made without an oath, but this with an oath by him that said unto him, they had nay swear and will not repent, you are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. By so much was Yahshua made a surety of a better testament. And they truly were many priests, because they were not suffered to continue by reason of death. But this man, because he continues ever, has an unchangeable priesthood.
This man, because he continues forever, he has an unchangeable priesthood. Now, the priesthood and the kingship was forged together through the house of David. And we watched that even during his life. It is not like we had to wait for Yahshua to see that merging. From the things that were given unto David to do, you can see that Yahweh was merging it. When he was in trouble and ended up going and eating the showbread, it was only lawful for the priests. Yet he ate it and nothing happened. Yahweh was already showing he a king, but he got priest in him. So, as this priesthood and kingship was forged together through the house of David, so they are part king and part priestly servants. And we have to remember that Yahshua did say, he that is greatest among you, let him be your servant. The sword that continues to follow the house of David might show itself today in broken homes as men who have kingly authority in them, but have no kingdom to operate in. This may make street gangs appear as structure to which they can exercise the various levels of authority inside of them that they don't even know is even in them. So the next time we notice a poet, a musician, a street prophet, a gang member, maybe even a pimp or a thug, you may be looking in the eyes of a misplaced son of David, who is desperately searching for the kingly order of where he belongs, and finds the closest thing he can in the streets of the ghetto. Let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Psalms chapter 22. See, if you're used to a kingly order, you know gang rules start to make sense. Gang got rules. Gang got hierarchy. Kingship has levels. It's one ultimate king, but then there's all these levels of authority that come under that. Now, if you got all these things in you and you don't know what that is, and then all of a sudden you get in this group and you feel at home. People say, you know what? That's part of that's a person coming from a broken home looking for a father. Wait a minute. You got folks who had their mama and their daddy at home and still went and got in the game. No. That was something else they were looking for. They didn't know the king stuff that was in there. So they went and tried to find structure somewhere else. Go ahead, priest.
You know, and if you look at it, it's just something that most people can't explain, but it just shines out. It's like, as I'm sitting here, you think about someone like Snoop at the awards when he said, East Coast ain't got no love for us. And he's just there blurting out. But there's other people on stage. But he's the one that's out front. But he comes from a group and he outshines. And then you have someone that comes forth like Tupac. Started out with Digital Underground, but somehow he just shines out and they just abruptly in your face, and it's like you say, you got this in you, you don't know where to put it.
Right. And how does it come out when you have these characteristics that are in the early parts of this book, but you don't know anything about that? Okay? You don't have anywhere to put that. You don't have anywhere to exercise that. So how does it show itself? And you're talking about musician. Understand, this man had the ability to play music and cause an evil spirit to go away. What if we have that power? We don't know it, but we calling the evil spirit in.
To hang out.
Murder, murder, death, death, kill, kill. And the evil spirit said, he called me. I heard him. He called me. I was listening to the beat. Boo, 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 boo. Kill everybody. Boo, 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 boo. Hell yeah. Boo, 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 boo. He called me. The evil spirit said, I know he has authority. He called me. That's why I came. And I helped him kill all those people. But they don't know they had that kind of power. Rappers dying like it's going out of style. But they calling those spirits. They don't know they got the power though. Let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Psalm 22, and we're going to read verses 1 through 18.
My Elohim, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me and from the words of my roaring? Oh, my Elohim, I cry in the daytime, but you hear not, and in the night season, and am not silent. But you are holy, O you that inhabitest the praises of Israel. Our fathers trusted in you. They trusted, and you did deliver them. They cried unto you, and were delivered. They trusted in you, and were not confounded. But I am a worm, and no man, a reproach of men, and despised of the people. All they that see me laugh me to scorn. They shoot out the lip, they shake the head, saying, he trusted on Yahweh that he would deliver him. Let him deliver him, seeing he delighted in him.
Right, but ain't that what they said to Yahshua? Okay, so Dawid is writing songs and poems, and it may be connected to some problems that he have, but they're really dealing with all of the aspects of what's going to happen to Yahshua way many generations after. Go ahead.
But you are he that took me out of the womb. You did make me hope when I was upon my mother's breast. I was cast upon you from the womb. You are my Elohim from my mother's belly. Be not far from me, for trouble is near, for there is none to help. Many bulls have compassed me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round. They gaped upon me with their mouths as a ravening and a roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaves to my jaws, and you have brought me into the dust of death. For dogs have compassed me. The assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet.
Once again, dealing with what was going to happen with Yahshua. So not only are we dealing with poems and songs, but now we got to add prophecy. What does that look like when you're misguided without foundation? Go ahead.
I may tell all my bones, but they look and stared upon me. They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture.
The very thing as well that took place with Yahshua. So when these characteristics of the house of Dawid, the characteristics of the house of the kings, comes way down in the generations in the daughter of Babylon, we have to ask ourselves, what does that look like? And as other individuals are getting redemption and the house of Dawid are not, how do they perceive that? As Yahweh starts to put back together houses and everything, preparing for the kingdom, what does that look like when there's not a automatic government system already set for it? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves, because Yahweh does not ask us as he's putting back together his foundation. If there are two boulders, one on the left and one on the right, I advise you to move, because he's about to put those together. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.